Drive through parade, drive through parade, drive through parade.
Good morning. I'm going to give a few testimonies, but Pastor Phil actually asked me to kind of talk more just on the importance and role of prayer in reaching a church's local community. And I've been with him a few times whenever we've presented to churches, and especially with Dr. Richard Blackaby being here as our keynote speaker. One of the reasons that he maybe asked me to talk about this is because of what I always say whenever I talk to people about doing drive-through prayer is, if you've went through experiencing God, one thing that you know is Henry Blackaby's, one of his key phrases in that is, find where God's working and join him. And this ministry is exactly that. It is a ministry that you don't even have to go look. You just stand out there and God brings the people to you that he is working in their life. Because just like in experiencing God, where he goes through patterns in the Bible, one of the patterns in the Bible is God always uses his people to help people that are not his. And a lot of times it's through prayer. Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar, he had to go pray about the dreams and help him. And that's one of the ones where God used prayer. Another one, and this one is a very neat one, is Jesus himself. And this is what we're doing. Because we have a high priest. In Hebrews 4, we're told that we have a high priest so we can come to the throne. But a lot of the people that we're praying for, they technically can't. And, Jesus in John 11, if y'all know that story, that's where Lazarus was raised from the dead. In John 11:42, what's Jesus do? He prays. He prays. He says, I know that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. A lot of times that's what we're doing. We know that God hears. We know that God can, is working in their lives, but we have to pray for them. And then that's when they see, as the tagline, the power of God work, and hopefully they come to know him as their Savior. And you've heard all the testimonies. I'll give two other testimonies of, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch because, every one of us have testimonies. But in the last church that I was doing drive-through prayer with, we were in Arkansas, and because of it being in Arkansas, we were doing it on Wednesdays before church started on Wednesday evenings. So we would start at 4 to 6. Sometimes we'd start around 3. And this past September 10th, Wednesday afternoon, all of us were kind of depressed when we were doing it. Y'all may know why, if you remember that date, but that's when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And we were just starting as we were hearing that he was officially died. And all of us knew him because we were from a college town. This was a college town. Everyone in there was younger people that, 40s and under that was doing it. And so, we were all pretty sad and depressed as we were putting out the signs to do it. But the Lord brought probably 10 different people that we got to preach the gospel to that day. Truly sit there and share and preach the gospel with them over that. And I remember one lady, which I guess it hit her big time because she was actually from the area in Utah, and her sister and brother, one of her younger brothers, goes to school there. And so she was just worried, and she had a little 3-month-old daughter with her, and she was just asking for prayer, because she's like, how can I know that my daughter's safe whenever stuff like this happens? And She was not a Christian. Got to preach the gospel with her and really just share with her. And I remember her eyes really lighting up when I got to tell her the aspect. I said, here's the thing. When Christ came, he came because if you accept God as your Savior, he looks at you as a saint. And when he looks at you as a saint, every one of us, I told her, Ephesians 1:18 tells us, it says, having the eyes of your hearts enlightened, that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, what are the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints. And just remember telling her that God looks at everyone that accepts him as his inheritance. We are his inheritance if you accept him. And explaining to her that a saint is anyone that accepts him. It's not, what we think of as people like Mother Teresa's or but anyways, just watching her just start crying whenever explaining that to her, that, God would look at you as his inheritance, the God that created everything. And, just that day, though, like I said, 10 people we got to really share the gospel with. Truly share. And it was all because of that. And I remember later on that evening after getting home from church, watching the news and people just talking all over, like, how could anything good happen from this? And I remember already, because this was only just within a couple hours, being able to say, we've already prayed and watched 4 people of those truly accept Christ. Within just a couple hours. And so we know how things can happen. And that was actually his biggest desire. If you remember, he was interviewed not long before that saying that he wants to be known for his faith and that he wants to make heaven crowded and stuff like that. And it's like, there you go. It was happening. And that's God using negative things, bad things in our economy or in our society to draw people to him. And that's what he does throughout the Bible. He doesn't cause this bad, but he knows how to use it because he's that good. He's that sovereign. And that's what we're doing, is we're joining with him and we're praying with people like Leo just talked about, like all the people have talked about in their testimonies. One of the other ones, I remember is whenever a church here that I was pastoring, whenever we was doing it here in Casa Grande, one of the ladies, actually Pastor Phil was helping out that day because I was sick and he filled in for me. And anyways, one of the ladies from my church, she decided to stop at the grocery store to buy donuts and drinks to bring in the morning time. And she had talked about how whenever she was in the store, which the Lord made her go to a different store than she normally goes to. Actually, one that was kind of out of route. And while she was in the store buying stuff, which she already had her shirt on, that says, "How can I pray for you?" She said she's at the checkout counter, and there was this lady there that she looked over and she could see, and the lady had been beaten up. She had a black eye and just, you could tell she had been abused. And as she was walking out of the store, the lady sat there and I guess walked out behind her and stopped her, and she's like, "Hey, church lady." She's like, "How much does it cost to pray for me?" And she's like, "Nothing. No, it doesn't cost anything." And she's like, "How can I pray for you?" And basically she told her all about her story and said that she was in a relationship where she was being abused. And she had prayed with her, and this lady was one that knew this type of situation, and she knew the right places to kind of get her in contact with, also prayed with her, and then gave her some information and just really encouraged her. And as she did, after she got done praying with her, the lady crying, and she pulled out a bottle of alcohol and a bag full of pills. and handed it to her. Said, will you dispose of these for me? I was about to go take these pills and end it in my life right here. And all because she was praying. And it's all because she was wearing that shirt that said, how can I pray for you? And there she was. She prayed with her, encouraged her, gave her hope. And I think she said that she was going to go back to her parents or something like that and, stay there and get out of that relationship. And, that's the type of stuff that we do. And that's what we're called to do as children of God. We are called to be ambassadors for Christ, to help reconcile people. And that is what we do. Because of the fall, horrible things happen in this world. I mean, that's what all these prayer requests are about. I mean, what he just talked about. I mean, just every one of them. We all know it. And it is. It's all the same prayers. It's all for health issues. It's for marriage issues. It's for children that have ran off and parents can't find their kids. How many grandparents are having to raise their children and praying, stopping by praying for their children that are ran off and all that. I mean, we all know it. We probably all have that in our own personal lives. And that's one of the neat things about drive-through prayer too, is it's so neat watching God use people that have the same testimony as that. Actually one last one, I remember Michelle, the very first day we started, it just really hit her that literally as the first car pulled in, she said the Lord just really impressed on her that it was pretty much to the moment, 10 years ago to that day, to the moment, that her and her husband as a lost people were crying out because they were watching a helicopter life medevac fly off with their daughter. And they were praying. They were asking everybody on Facebook and all that to be praying for them. And they didn't know anybody to pray for them. They didn't know any saved people, which their daughter ended up ultimately passing away a couple days later. And that was the second child that they lost within 3 months. And she said it was literally as she watched the first one pull in, the Lord reminded her it was 10 years ago to this moment that you were crying out for someone to pray for you. And you didn't know anybody, and the Lord had brought them to salvation through that, through them losing their 2 children and all of that. And here they are 10 years later saying, how can I pray for you? So you are doing the Lord's work. It is a very important role. It's the biggest role of our calling. I mean, we are called to be ambassadors for Christ, and we can't be it if we're not around people that are not reconciled. I mean, if everyone we're around is already reconciled to God, how else do we do it? And that's why being out there in the streets, asking people. So, all right, that's it for my subject.
Oh, give me a drive to prayer, and I will stand up and wait to every car that passes by. Come in, let us pray today. Oh, give me a drive-through prayer. How can I pray for you? Through trembling tears, one softly said, my love.